When silence turns into strategy, victory becomes inevitable. On a cold night when the Russian missile plant buzzed with overtime work, its lights flickering like a beating heart of war, 77 Ukrainian drones circled above, unseen, unheard, and unmerciful. They waited not for orders but for the perfect moment when every Russian technician, every missile in progress, and every spark of industry stood exposed beneath the stars. Then in a synchronized roar of vengeance the sky erupted, flames replaced silence, precision replaced power. In that moment the world didn't just witness an explosion, it witnessed a message. Ukraine's patience is deadlier than Russia's power. Calculated patience is often the most underestimated weapon in war. While firepower, missiles, and numbers capture headlines, the real strength lies in timing, knowing not only how to strike, but when. Ukraine's decision to let 77 drones hover and wait over the Russian missile plant was not an act of hesitation. It was a masterclass in strategic patience. In modern warfare, technology may control the tools, but timing controls the outcome. Those drones weren't waiting for a target, they were waiting for significance. The missile factory represented not just machinery but momentum for Russia's war machine. By allowing the plant to work overtime, Ukraine let the enemy stack its own ammunition, fill its own inventory, and walk deeper into a trap meticulously designed by silence. Every passing hour of that night was a psychological move. The workers at the Russian facility were racing to meet deadlines, manufacturing instruments of destruction that would later be aimed at Ukrainian cities. Yet above them, unseen in the darkness, an invisible storm gathered. The drones hovered like shadows of justice, collecting data, syncing coordinates, and waiting for the exact window where destruction would be most complete. This wasn't an impulsive strike, it was warfare executed with the precision of a heartbeat. Patience became the blade and time became the weapon. In military terms, patience is more than delay, it's control. Ukraine's drone operators demonstrated that control over timing equals dominance over chaos. They didn't fire early, even when opportunities tempted them. They didn't reveal their presence with premature attacks. Instead, they studied the rhythm of the enemy's activity, waited for the factory to reach full capacity, and only then unleashed devastation that would echo across the Russian defense network. The message was crystal clear: Ukraine is not reacting anymore, it's orchestrating. This kind of calculated patience reflects a deeper shift in warfare strategy. It's not just about hitting targets but dismantling systems. The drones weren't sent to destroy one building, they were sent to collapse a supply chain, to erase hours of Russian labor and billions in production with a single perfectly timed strike. Every missile that could have hit Kyiv or Kharkiv was instead vaporized in its birthplace. The efficiency of that destruction was amplified by timing, not volume. It wasn't how many drones attacked, it was when they did. Such patience also exposes the psychological warfare beneath the explosion. Russia's perception of safety within its borders is now shattered. Factories once considered untouchable now leave under the shadow of Ukrainian silence. Workers, engineers, and commanders alike will think twice before turning on the lights at night, knowing that the sky could be watching. The effect is more than physical, it's mental paralysis. Ukraine's drones turned patience into psychological dominance. The beauty of this operation lies in its restraint. Modern warfare often celebrates speed, instant response, and overwhelming force, but Ukraine reminded the world that strategy is not about reaction, it's about anticipation. Waiting for the factory to become most vulnerable was an act of discipline, not delay. It proved that true power is not in constant attack, but in the ability to wait for the enemy to expose themselves completely. Each passing minute the drones waited was a tightening of control, a silent countdown to inevitability. When the moment came, it wasn't chaos, it was choreography. 77 drones descended in synchronized fury, each guided by precise intelligence gathered over hours of observation. The explosion that followed wasn't random. It was the climax of a plan built on patience, calculation, and timing. The Russian plant didn't just explode, it collapsed under the weight of Ukraine's strategy. That night redefined the art of modern warfare. It wasn't a story of drones versus missiles, it is time versus arrogance, Precision versus presumption. Ukraine proved that victory doesn't always belong to the fastest or strongest, but to those who can wait, watch, and strike when the world least expects it. The silence before the explosion was not hesitation, it was the sound of control, and when the sky finally ignited, it wasn't just a missile plant that burned, it was Russia's illusion of invulnerability. Behind every successful strike lies an invisible army of minds, data, and coordination. The attack on the Russian missile plant by 77 Ukrainian drones was not a random act of aggression. It was a display of intelligence-driven warfare, where precision and synchronization replaced brute force. Each drone was a soldier in a perfectly calculated network, operating not in chaos but in harmony, guided by the unseen hands of intelligence officers, engineers, and strategists who understand that in modern warfare information is the real ammunition. The brilliance of this operation was not just in the explosion, but in how it was made possible, through coordination so refined it blurred the line between human instinct and machine precision. Before those drones even took flight, countless hours of surveillance, decoding, and digital infiltration had already paved the way. Satellite imagery, intercepted communications, and deep reconnaissance were all pieces of a complex puzzle. Ukraine's intelligence units tracked every shipment entering the plant, every night shift scheduled, and every pattern of power consumption that could reveal when production was at its peak. This wasn't guesswork, it was data science fused with warfare. Each drone had its target, its timing, its altitude, and its sequence pre-programmed with surgical precision. The mission was built on unity, humans and machines thinking as one, moving as one, striking as one. Coordination like this doesn't happen overnight. It requires seamless communication between multiple defense divisions, cyber units, reconnaissance teams, drone operators, and field analysts, all linked through encrypted networks designed to withstand electronic interference. In the battlefield of modern technology, disruption is constant. Yet the Ukrainian command managed to maintain a flawless flow of information, ensuring that no single drone was isolated, no operator was blinded, and no signal was compromised. That level of synchronization is rare even among the world's most advanced militaries. What Ukraine demonstrated was not just technical skill but organizational mastery. Every drone in that swarm represented the culmination of coordination. From launch to detonation, each movement was interconnected, guided by a live network of real-time updates and AI-assisted tracking systems. If one drone's path shifted due to weather or signal loss, another adjusted instantly. This fluid adaptability is what made the assault unstoppable. It's a testament to how Ukraine has evolved from traditional warfare into a digitally integrated military force. The enemy saw an explosion. What they didn't see was the digital architecture that orchestrated it. The intelligence behind the operation was also deeply psychological. Ukraine understood that hitting the Russian plant wasn't just about destruction, it was about exposure. By timing the strike for when the plant was most active, they made sure the explosion would not only cripple production, but also humiliate Russian defense intelligence, revealing their inability to predict or intercept the attack. Every fireball, every shattered structure was a symbol of failure for the Russian surveillance apparatus. It sent a clear message: no radar, no border, and no defense can stop an enemy that sees through data. This level of planning also speaks to trust within the Ukrainian defense network. For 77 drones to move in perfect formation, hundreds of individuals had to trust one another's timing, accuracy, and decisions without hesitation. From analysts studying heat signatures to operators guiding drones over enemy territory, every link in the chain mattered. The success of the mission depended on unity, discipline, and communication. It wasn't just drones that flew that night, it was coordination in motion. The operation stands as proof that wars are no longer won by the size of your army, but by the intelligence of your systems. Ukraine didn't need 1,000 missiles or mass air raids to prove its power. It needed 77 drones, guided by the invisible strength of information and synchronization. The strike showed that modern warfare is an algorithm of precision, each move calculated, each second measured, each outcome designed. When the Russian factory erupted into flames, it wasn't just metal that burned, it was the illusion that Russia's defenses were untouchable. The drones were the visible weapon, but the real power came from the invisible network of intelligence and coordination that made the attack flawless. It was technology serving strategy and strategy serving purpose. In a war defined by chaos, Ukraine achieved order, and in that order lay its greatest weapon, a unity of intelligence, precision, and purpose that no enemy could see coming, but every enemy would feel. The explosion that tore through the Russian missile plant was more than a tactical success. It was a message carved in fire and steel. It spoke not only to Russia, but to the world. In that moment, 77 Ukrainian drones didn't just destroy a target, they reshaped the psychological battlefield. The strike was both a warning and a revelation. Ukraine's war is not only fought with machines but with meaning. Every drone, every explosion, every moment of silence before impact carried a statement that the age of passive defense is over, and that resilience can be as powerful as offense when fueled by purpose. The message to Russia was unmistakable. It told them that no corner of their military infrastructure is safe, no production line untouchable. The missile plant symbolized Moscow's pride in its defense industry, an image of strength and sustainability. By obliterating it, Ukraine shattered more than concrete. It shattered confidence. It showed that Russian borders are illusions drawn on maps easily crossed by intelligence and precision. The strike forced Russian officials and citizens alike to confront a new reality. The war they thought was distant has come home. That realization burns deeper than any missile strike. It breeds fear, confusion, and doubt within the heart of the aggressor's system. But beyond Russia's humiliation, the impact of this operation radiated outward. For Ukraine, it was a surge of morale, a signal to every soldier, engineer, and citizen that endurance pays off. The patience, coordination, and intelligence that led to this strike became symbols of national pride. It showed that Ukraine's fight isn't just about defense, it's about rewriting the rules of modern warfare. Instead of matching Russia missile for missile, Ukraine is proving that strategy, innovation, and courage can bend the balance of power. The people of Ukraine saw in that explosion a reflection of their own persistence, the belief that even against overwhelming odds, they can strike back with precision and purpose. On the global stage, the message resonated even further. Allies watching from afar witnessed what determination and technology can achieve when used intelligently. The world saw that Ukraine's capabilities are no longer reactive. They are proactive, deliberate, and evolving. This wasn't a symbolic attack. It was a demonstration of how smaller nations, equipped with ingenuity and resolve, can challenge even the most militarized powers. It shifted international perception, turning sympathy into respect and observation into support. The explosion became a statement of sovereignty. Ukraine is not begging for survival, it's building its own destiny. There was also a deeper, more silent message embedded in this operation. It reminded the world that modern warfare is no longer confined to front lines. It extends to factories, networks, and supply chains. It revealed the vulnerability of industrial war machines in the face of precision strikes driven by intelligence and data. Every country with a stake in global security understood that the future of warfare won't be determined by who has the most weapons, but by who uses them smartest. Ukraine, through this operation, didn't just fight a battle, it taught a lesson to the watching world. For Russia, the psychological aftershock of this strike will linger longer than the flames. Workers will return their stations with the memory of that night etched into their minds. Engineers will second-guess their safety, commanders will question their intelligence, and leaders will scramble for explanations. Fear, once planted in the machinery of war, corrodes efficiency and weakens resolve. Ukraine's strike weaponized fear, turning it into an invisible front that spreads without firing another shot. And yet, amid the destruction, there was a haunting kind of balance. Ukraine's message wasn't one of chaos, it was one of control. This wasn't revenge for revenge's sake. It was justice methodically delivered. The world understood that this was not desperation, it was discipline. The drones didn't act out of anger, they acted out of strategy. The distinction gave the strike moral weight. It turned a military operation into a statement of sovereignty and intelligence, a warning that wars of dominance will crumble before wars of precision and purpose. In the aftermath, as the smoke settled over the ruins of the missile plant, the silence spoke louder than the blast. The world saw that patience, unity, and intellect had triumphed over arrogance and aggression. The message of the 77 drones became timeless. You can build missiles, but you cannot outbuild resolve. You can manufacture war, but you cannot manufacture will. Ukraine's operation was more than a victory. It was a declaration. It told the world that the fight for freedom is not only alive but evolving, and it will not be silent.